You asked and I answered. So I'm Scott, I'm a wedding videographer in the UK, and these are some of the questions that have been put to me by couples past, present and future. So if you're planning your wedding, looking for a videographer and you've got some burning questions for them, these should be of help. So I've written them down in my trusty little notebook, so I didn't have to look at my phone, and I like writing things down nowadays. It's much nicer. I'm trying to be more tactile and have tangible things. These are going to be off the cuff answers. I haven't thought about these. I'm going to read them and tell you what comes to mind. So, number one, this applies to me personally, but you should ask your videographer this if you're not going with me. How would you describe your style? So, my style is, I always say it's the antithesis of traditional wedding films. So what I mean by that is traditional wedding films are very sweeping, cinematic, and elegant. Not to say that my films don't have some elegance and some nice, tender, sentimental moments, but I am much more about natural, fun, authentic, candid moments over poses, cringe stuff that you see in a lot of wedding films. Not to my taste. A lot of couples that I hear from, they say that's not to their taste. I like to take viewers on a journey, tell a bit of a story, make it have some meat on the bone, so it's not one-dimensional. A lot of traditional films are kind of just like on one level throughout, where I like to sort of like take viewers on a journey, like I say, and like have all these ups and downs, so you get all these different feelings that you get to relive that you would have experienced on the day. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I think if you look at my films, it kind of speaks for itself. It makes sense what I'm talking about. So let's move on to number two. Number two, what do you want your couples to... Well, similar. What do you want your couples to feel when they watch your films? So, as I was saying, I want them to feel everything. So when they're reliving the moment they walk down the aisle, I want them to kind of get that feeling, that nervous excitement. When they're watching the dance floor scenes, I want them to remember how fun it was, like all the crazy antics. So it is about kind of switching on each different emotion that they would have felt at certain points of the day. So I craft them intentionally in a way that kind of reignites those feelings. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a lot of it is more kind of like doing rather than... I don't overthink things. I just do what feels right. And I think that comes through, and it kind of showcases the couple, who they are, what they're about, and how their day went. So number three, we have, are there any recurring scenes you always try to capture? The first kiss, always like to capture that, obviously. But no, seriously, there are key moments throughout the day that are a must. You can't miss them. The first kiss being a prime example of that. Dress reveal, a reveal with a parent, friend, significant other. I wouldn't say I have a checklist of shots that I must get. It's very much curated to who you are as a couple, what you're about, and how you want your film to look. It's very much a collaborative process, so we would talk it through in advance, like how you foresee your film looking, what kind of film you would like, and the kind of shots that I get are then tailored to that. So a lot of people would rather I just hang back, be in the background, blending in like I'm a guest, and just capture natural interactions between the couple, family and friends. Whereas some people want to do some crazy shots with their bridal party, with the groom party. I've done things from like striking poses, groomsmen racing to grab a beer can, you name it. It's custom. Like I say, it's custom to each couple. So recurring scenes, not so much, just a recurring sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a consistent approach to how I do things, which is adapted to everyone. What are your biggest influences that bleed into your work? So I actually appeared on a podcast, I Do and Updos. Check it out if you haven't done so already. Big shout out, Katie and Laura. It's a great show. You should have a listen. A lot of great wedding professionals go on there. But they asked me a similar question, and again, it ties into my answer around my style. So my background is in music. I played in bands for a long time, And when I was starting out making wedding films, I kind of thought about how I can sort of tie the two things together, and kind of inject some of the things I learned in the music industry into the wedding films. And when I was looking at the industry, I kind of saw, I'm kind of saying verbatim what I said on the podcast, but it's worthwhile. Stick with me. I saw two types of main wedding films when I was starting out. On the one hand, you have the traditional films that I mentioned, and then on the other hand, you have alternative films. For the most part, at that time at least, they were kind of like the two heavy hitters. The traditional films I described earlier, and then the alternative films were much more like a music video, a lot faster paced, a lot more kind of chaotic and outrageous. I found both approaches to be rather one-dimensional, and I wanted to give viewers more. And I was drawn to, again, feeding into my background in music, I was drawn to a quote from Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, and he talks about light and shade in songs. So that is, you know, the quiet moments leading into big loud moments, which give the quieter moments more emphasis. So that's kind of like the DNA of my films. It runs through, you know, I like to have build up to big moments like the first kiss. So you'd have like quite a sort of gentle song which builds, and then when the hit kiss happens, it drops, lifts everything, gives it more emphasis, and that subconsciously gives people more feelings. So yeah, that kind of approach to writing songs and music, that's influenced my style early on. I tend to steer clear of taking inspiration from other wedding filmmakers, watching other wedding films, as I don't want to kind of, not that there's anything wrong with what other people are doing, but I don't want to be subconsciously influenced by other wedding films. I like to draw inspiration from elsewhere. And of course, a lot of inspiration in terms of shots and framing and stylistic choices do come from movies as well. So that's kind of a long answer to number 4, but that's it really. Music and movies is kind of obvious, but that's my influence. So number 5, do you offer audio storytelling? I'm not entirely sure what they mean by this. I can only imagine what they mean is if I include elements of like speeches and vows, like rings exchange in the films. And in short, yes. So when I'm crafting a highlights film, I take elements of like little sound bites of speeches, the vows, the ring exchange, readings, if there's readings, poems, that sort of thing, and I weave it into the story for the films. It gives it its narrative. It sort of takes it away from being just a music video, and that's what creates the story. So if that's what you mean by audio storytelling, then yes, I do that. It's very important for me to do that. I capture all of the audio professionally using, you see this, professional microphones like this. So it sounds as good as it looks, because if it looks great and sounds crap, it's going to be a really hard watch. So let's move on. Number 6, why do you do what you do? This could be a long answer. I'll try and keep it short. Basically, I was, for the longest time, a sort of, like frustrated creative. So, like I say, I was playing in bands. It's a very difficult industry, the music industry. I was in a very niche genre as well, sort of like stoner doom metal, very clicky scene. And whilst doing that, I had an office job, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, soul sucking, like just awful kind of environment. You know, the overhead sort of halogen lights or whatever they are. It's just grey environment, grey people, and I did that for like 8 years, and it was just like destroying me. So COVID happened. I was working from home. I started making music videos for my band prior to that, and it kind of triggered my interest. So whilst COVID was happening and I was working from home, I was learning more about videography on YouTube and just going down rabbit holes. I discovered the wonderful world of wedding videography. There is a chap in America who probably a bit of a pioneer in terms of doing like wedding behind the scenes. Scott McKenna, he was a big inspiration. I was seeing what he was doing, long form BTS, talking about his process, how he captures wedding films. He was a Lumix shooter, so he was shooting on GH5s. I appreciate that if you're a couple, you're not necessarily going to know what that means, but some of the wedding videographers out there will appreciate that. And yeah, that inspired me, and I was like, I can do something with this filmmaking interest that I just developed, and it went from there. I set up the concept of the business, put myself out there, booked styled shoots, and then built it from there, and entered the wedding industry. And the rest is history, as they say. I'm now full-time. Number 7, what do you not do? So, what do I not do? I guess one thing that I would say I don't do, if I've understood the question correctly, is I don't follow trends. Nothing will date your wedding film more than the latest TikTok dance. So if you want that in your film, I'm not your guy. I make something that's going to stand the test of time, and it's going to hold up, and it's going to be something that you're going to want to watch in years to come. So if it's the latest trend, the latest sort of like buzz that's out there in the industry, tend to avoid it. Don't think it's going to necessarily be the best representation of who I am and what I do, and probably not the best representation of your day. You're going to spend so long curating the overall day, the overall aesthetic, the feelings, that to kind of insert something that's trending in that moment, no, don't do it. Unless you really want to, it's your day. Don't let me. I mean, I'm kind of contradicting myself, but I'm not going to suggest things. You know, it's not what I'm about. And then this is the final question. So there was only 8, but let's keep it nice and concise and short. Who is your dream client? So I'm not a big fan of this dream client. It's kind of like shutting the door to certain people, to certain demographics. If you're a nice person and we're nice people and what I do resonates with you, you are my dream client. I'm not going to say you need to be X age, X gender, whatever, XYZ. Like, just chat. If we're the right fit, we're the right fit, great. And then you're the dream client. It's as simple as that. Don't let anyone put you off because you think, they're too cool for me. Whatever it may be, just find the person that feels right, that you feel is going to fit in with you on your day. So that's it, short and sweet, very specific kind of questions. If you have anything that you would like to ask a wedding videographer, things that are like burning in the back of your head whilst you're planning your wedding, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. And also, if you're planning your wedding and you're looking for a videographer and my style kind of matches your vibe, reach out. No obligation chats can be had, and we can make your vision come to reality. Until next time.